Good evening. It is June 22nd, 2021, 5 p.m. Welcome to the San Marino Unified School District Board of Education meeting. Here is your board president, Shelley Ryan.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. Thank you for joining us this evening. If you're joining us in person, you must have pre-registered. You can also join us virtually via Zoom at www.smusd.us/media. All meetings of the Board of Education are open to members of the public unless publicly noticed as a confidential closed session as allowed by the Law Education Code Section 35147. Members of the public may address the board as outlined in the public comment section of the agenda. The audio of all meetings is recorded, and a member of the public may be held liable for any slanderous or otherwise defamatory statements. In consideration of the board, members of the audience, please turn off, silence your cell phones while in the boardroom. The San Marino Unified School District encourages those with disabilities to participate fully in the public meeting process. If you need a disability-related modification of accommodation, including auxiliary aids or services to participate in the public meeting, contact the assistant to the superintendent at j.delatorre@smusd.us or at 626-299-7000, extension 1310, at least 48 hours before the scheduled board meeting so that we may make every reasonable effort to accommodate you. Documents provided to a majority of the Board of Education regarding an open session item on this agenda will be made available for public inspection in the district office located at 1665 West Drive, San Marino during normal business hours. In addition, such writings and documents may be viewed on the district's website at www.smusd.us. As we open the 5 p.m. session, I will call first on Dr. Wilson. Okay, let me preface with this. So we're going to begin the board candidate interviews. The discussion item, the Board of Education will make a provisional appointment to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of board member Julie Chan Lin. The applications received prior to the deadline have been reviewed for appropriate qualifications by staff and a subcommittee of the Board of Education pursuant to Board Policy 9223. The board will take action following the interviews to make a provisional appointment. At this time, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you, Board President Ryan, Board of Education, executive team, candidates, and audience members. Thank you so much for being here today. I want to begin by noting that two of our candidates are utilizing the Zoom to Zoom in from out of state as we offered at the beginning of these processes. And so we do have 4 of the candidates here in person and 2 online. And I believe those 2 are in, right, Dr. Choi?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the process. Each candidate will be asked the same 2 questions by the same 3 board members who were responsible for asking questions during the prior process to fill Mr. Barbary's position. Candidates will have a maximum of 1.5 minutes to respond to each question and will have copies of the questions in front of them. Dr. Choi will be the board's timekeeper and will provide the candidates with a 30-second warning, a 10-second warning, and a stop sign when the time for a response has expired. And he has these wonderful signs sitting next to him here that he can show you right now. Okay. Okay, so then when the stop sign goes up, the microphone will be muted, so don't be surprised. This is to ensure that no candidate receives an unfair advantage. The order in which the questions will be asked was randomly selected using numbers after having listed each candidate in alphabetical order. Each number was pulled from a bowl by one person and recorded by another. Once all of the candidates have been interviewed and public comments have been rendered, the board president shall ask for a motion to appoint from the board, a second, and a vote. At the time, a new board member shall be sworn in, and he or she shall begin to serve the remaining term. And that's the introduction.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Go ahead, Mrs. Chung.
I just wanted to clarify. So in the agenda, it was unclear when we are taking public comment. So I think Dr. Wilson just stated after the interviews are completed, at that point, we will be opening up for public comment prior to any motions made. Is that correct?
I think that was the intention. What we heard in leading up to the interviews prior was that we'd have an opportunity for the public to weigh in before and after the interviews.
Okay, so are we going to do public comment now before we start the interviews, or are we going to just do it once later?
I would, since I was not in town for that, I will defer to Dr. Delatorre or somebody else for the first process where public comments offered prior to the interview process
Yes.
the previous time.
Yes,
Okay.
prior to and after, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Dr. Choi, at this time, is that what we want to do, is to do public comment? Would you please give us notice and 1 minute?
Yeah, but when I put in my notes, we needed to add it there.
Okay, we are now pausing for 1 minute to take requests for public comments. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon via Zoom. Or if you are joining us by phone, please dial *9 to make the request. Or if you are joining us in person, please submit a public comment card. We have 30 seconds remaining. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. Okay, President Ryan, we have one request to speak via Zoom, and we have one public comment card.
Thank you. First, I'd like to call up Ming Zhang, who is at 1240 Patton Way. Come on up.
I think Mr. Wang needs to adjust the audio level for the microphone. There we go.
Okay. Good evening, dear board members. It's so good to see you in person. Hi, Louis. So my name is Ming. I live on Patton Way, and today I'm here to shine a little light on a hidden gem in our community. So as you know that Measure E didn't succeed a few months ago, and a lot of people were very concerned about the teachers letting go. And one of the parents is so passionate. She took the initiative and she organized not just one, but 3 pop-up fundraising. You probably all know about it. And she contacted the people from elementary school, middle school, and high school, and they raised more than $200,000 to save the teachers. And that's amazing, never heard of. And she didn't do it as a board member or a PTA president. She is just a concerned parent, and she's Louis Cassie. Yeah, so if that's not leadership, I don't know what is. And I want to ask you, how many of you have attended the Chinese Club Mid-Autumn Festival events? Yes, for years, I really enjoyed the live auction that Mitch hosted because he's so fun and skillful. But 2019, to my surprise, Louis was hosting it. And not only it was a fun and successful event, she raised the bar. She got the most money out of the live auction, and she has her way and her will. And not only she used her creativity to triple the police chief and the fire chief for the day, and she also sold the thin air for $5,000 and $2,500. And guess who bought the $5,000 thin air? Her husband. She really puts her money where her mouth is. And if that's not leadership, I don't know what is. So over the years, she has done so much for the community. For example, at the Mid-Autumn Festival, she collected a lot of people to have fun performance. We always enjoyed it, and we raised money. And she is a parent of a couple of children in the school district. So she is really well known about the school district, and she has skin in the game. And I know for sure that she will come up with great ideas if she is elected on the board, because she is already doing so much as just a parent. Imagine what she can do as a board member. I asked the board to elect her as one of your board members, and I'm sure we will get pleasantly surprised, and I'm sure that the community will thank you for it. And thank you for your service.
Thank you, Ms. Jang.
Thank you, and we have one public comment request from Lisa Wang. Lisa, I am promoting you to a panelist. If you hear me, you may go ahead and speak.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Wang. I know tonight the board has a very important decision to make, and that decision must be Louis Cassie. She is a respected member of the community. She and her husband, Sean Chow, are frequent volunteers around the schools and around the community. And as the previous speaker mentioned, she was the brain behind 3 fundraising events, things that was not supported by anybody else, but she took the initiative, was part of the grassroots efforts to fundraise for the San Marino Foundation, as well as for the Measure E campaign. She has also, what the previous speaker mentioned, a skin in the game in town. More importantly, I think she can bring the unity that so desperately we need to this community. We have voters that are still on the sidelines waiting to see who will be seated tonight. We want to do everything possible to make sure the passage of Measure E. So I urge the board to choose wisely tonight, and that wise decision has to be to elect Louis Cassie as a next SMUSD board member. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there are no further,
Board President, I have something to report. Today, early afternoon, I received an email from the concerned resident. One more time, then challenge about the residency issue. Because I and Jen Chong was appointed as a subcommittee member to screen residency eligibility. So that's the reason right now I think it's my responsibility to point out. I one more time I received the challenge about the residency eligibility issue. But yesterday I and Jen Chong we start to review second round eligibility. And today I speak on behalf of myself because I'm appointed as the subcommittee member, so I think I need to speak out. So yesterday I used my available message to examine all the candidate the eligibility So I think because that's all I have. So that's the reason I passed for all the eligibility. So in the future, if something happen, I think I cannot control. So that's my statement. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as board president, I want to thank Mrs. Chong and Mr. Chang for your due diligence in the subcommittee in ensuring that we have eligible candidates. And I thank you for your service and your hard work on both events for each of the session of candidates and interviewees. With that, we will begin with our interview process.
Okay, I'd like to invite the board to please stand and come around the table so that you can face the candidates. And I will assist with moving the chairs around as well. Okay, I'll go ahead and help here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Choi. Thank you so much for your patience, candidates. I welcome you tonight. All right. So it looks like I'm first up. Dr. Choi, have you got the time?
I am tracking the time for
Thank
90
you.
seconds, and I will provide a 30-second warning, 10-second warning, and the stop sign.
And those of you guys that were here last time, you know that the net falls down when you go beyond the minute and a half, and security will come out. Cynthia, I don't know how we're going to get you over there, as well as our Zoom candidates, but welcome and thank you so much for joining us. My first question to you is if you could please describe your understanding of school budgets. How are public schools financed? What are the components of funding as it relates to students? And we're going to begin with Miss Cassie. Louis, please.
Hi. I would like to start with rewinding and do a self-introduction. Many of you know me, but you may not know that I'm actually Indonesian. So I'm Indonesian Chinese. I was born and raised in Jakarta, Indonesia. I went to Taiwan for school when I was 9 and came to the United States for school when I was 18. So English is my third language, but it doesn't stop me from being good at it. As far as explaining the school budget, it's largely controlled by a local control funding formula, and a district like ours is very unique. We are very often shortchanged with that formula, and a large portion of our funding depends on our local funding, which includes our Measure E, Measure R. It also includes donations from the foundation, donations from PTA. All of that components are very important. There are, as far as the relation to students, I think there are misconceptions in the community about the number of students, the class size and all that, but I am actually in agreement with the previous speech by Dr. Wilson about us having the ideal number of 3,200 in the district, right? So at this point with low enrollment, we really need to look at how to keep our students in the district, how to get more students from out of district to help.
Thank you.
Louis, thank you. Win Mordecai, please.
All right, so the primary elements of a public school in California's budget really come down to your LCFF funding, given that you aren't a basic aid district, in addition to your local funding. Those combined in San Marino make up 89% of our funding, with 59% being LCFF and 30% being local. This renders San Marino a very unique district, as being one of the least funded in the entire state. The reason being that LCFF is allocated to different schools based on their populations of students with either ESL or poverty line statistics. So the base level of funding per student as per LCFF is $9,000, and we receive about $9,053 per student, which renders us almost one of the lowest funded districts in the entire state. As this pertains to students,
30 seconds.
Will do. Students are given, or our schools given funding based on average daily attendance. And as we all know, San Marino's daily attendance as a result of fewer students matriculating into our elementary schools every year has been dropping precipitously over the past half a decade or so. And so if we're going to receive more funding for our students, then we're going to need to figure out some way to get more kids in those desks.
Thank you. Mr. Michael Kalaki, please.
As the Vice President of Grants for the San Marino Schools Foundation, I worked hand in hand with the district leadership to understand and navigate our district's insufficient funding. Our district is funded through state funding according to the LCFF, as well as federal funds and local funding. The LCFF funds are inadequate for us to provide world-class education for our children, for the education they deserve. Only approximately $10,000 or so comes from state funding, but there are other districts that receive about 30 to 50% more than us in those types of funds. So we do have to rely on local funding. Local funding from the 2 parcel taxes, as well as the Schools Foundation, for which I'm a trustee, and the PTA, which works very hard to obtain donations. These local sources are providing approximately 50% of teacher salaries. So local funding is composed of annual donations and 6-year parcel taxes. Both are relatively short-term solutions to our long-term issues. It's very difficult for our district to provide long-term, stable, strategic planning when we're constantly relying upon large amounts of local funding, which is unstable and short-term. Perhaps the biggest challenge is declining enrollment, because that definitely decreases our funds.
Thank you, Mr. Kalaki. Next, Ms. Susan Flanagan.
Good evening, everyone. Public schools are financed through the state, however, not equally. Years ago, our school district was funded by San Marino taxes. Then a law was passed that sent all San Marino taxes to Sacramento. And then the state determined how much each district gets. Those districts that have large areas of underprivileged students receive more funds, which is problematic for San Marino. I do not know the exact amount each student in our district gets today compared to LA Unified, but it is several thousand difference, which is definitely adds up. When we have much fewer students, that makes a huge difference as well. LA Unified also qualifies for a lot of federal funds that we don't. So that means we have much less monies to work with than other districts. We have to depend, as they have said, on parcel taxes and private donations. La Cañada is a district like ours, and they are a member of the 5-Star Coalition with Glendale, South Pasadena, and others, which lobbies in Sacramento
10 seconds.
for more money. I think this is one way in which San Marino should do the same. I think we should contact our Congress people and state senators.
Thank you so much. Next, Mr. Jing Dong Zhu.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And I'm a new resident in the community, and I must be honest to you, I do not know our community so well yet, but I have a very high passion and a curiosity to serve community as best as I can. So my background is coming from, I was born in Shanghai, China, And I came out of the China about 40 years ago as a overseas student to study abroad on a grant and fellowship, specifically on genetic engineering. And I came to the United States and spent all my career and contributing to United States economy since about 35 years ago after I graduated from my doctorate program. And so I have been working on pharmaceutical industry, especially biopharmaceutical industry, to develop pharmaceuticals. And I have 4 children, and 3 of them are all college graduates. And I consider them, I'm proud of them and very successful. I have the youngest one now going to San Marino High School in the coming fall. And because we moved in San Marino based on the reputation that San Marino High School was highly reputable in the surroundings of our neighborhood. And so I truly believe that San Marino School District is doing something right. Okay, and I hope I can learn from that and continue to serve.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you. Ms. Cynthia Rai.
Hi, aloha. I'm Cynthia Airy, and I was born and raised in San Marino. I graduated from San Marino High. I went to Stoneman and Huntington Middle School. I've been involved with the PTAs, and it's pretty shocking how San Marino High School is one of the best schools, and yet our funding is so lackluster. And I know the district decides how to allocate the money for each school site, and we rely heavily on the state and the federal and a lot of local funding. Obviously, the property taxes help us, but it's difficult because we don't have any big businesses here in San Marino. We rely on the San Marino School Foundation, the PTSA or PTA, and other fundraising. I know that because of our demographics in San Marino, it's difficult for us to get funding for reduced lunch and English language learning. And we really lack the demographics for those, what the government pays and pays different schools because of that. And we do rely a lot on local funding, local fundraisers, and that's why it's so important that measure. I think because it didn't pass, a couple months ago, I think that the community really understands the effect that the funds have on our schools here in San Marino.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Next, Mr. Chang.
Okay, question is I brought up the question from the Susan Flanagan. What are the current challenges facing education school board?
The biggest challenge facing education in our school board today is getting our students back to school in the fall safely with a plan to address the loss of 1.5 years of their education. Because of COVID, unfortunately, all of our students have suffered greatly as far as their academic, social, and emotional education. That is probably the biggest motivator as to why I am here tonight. I want to be part of the solution to bridging the gaps in our students' education. We are lucky in many ways compared to other districts. We have dedicated and exceptional teachers who will be available to assess each child's deficiencies and suggest ways to alleviate those gaps. They may suggest extra work done at home, tutoring, or extra reading and writing assignments. Whatever they recommend, we are at an advantage because we are blessed with motivated students who love to learn and parents that support them, as well as a school board, superintendent, and community. Each of these groups are going to have to work together. I have a few ideas. At the high school, I think volunteer student mentoring and tutoring would be great, which they could put on their resume for college. I think we could do the same thing at the other schools. We could also put a call out to retired teachers and parents to help in the classroom and do things that the teacher doesn't have the time to do. And I have.
Okay, thank you. Next go to the Mrs. Cynthia Alright. What are the current challenges facing education school board?
Am I muted?
We
Right.
hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, you know, it's been a very difficult year with the pandemic and with COVID. I do have a senior who graduated with the class of 2021, and it was a year of Zoom up until April. And I think that the declining enrollment, and I think this fall will actually be good, and the kids will be back in school. And I think there'll be the camaraderie and the socialization of the students. But I do think that this year has been difficult with the teachers doing the Zoom. And my daughter went back, and she was actually the only student in her government class, Mr. Holcomb. And that was awkward. And so I think that there is kind of a little bit of a disconnect between the school and the students, but I think that we can get back to it. And I'm hoping with the mask mandates being lifted and everything on June 15th, I think that students are thrilled to be going back. I do think that there is some challenges for us. I worry about the funding again for the schools and the teachers, and then got my fingers crossed that Measure E is going to pass. And I think that we just have to kind of turn the page and move on and move forward to, you know, getting the kids back at school, you know, having the football games, doing all the things that are great in our community. And I think that those are some of the challenges. I think the teachers coming back.
Thank you. Time is up.
Thank you, Cynthia. Next go to the Mrs. Louis Kaisi.
I think the current challenges that are most pressing right now is stability. And that also includes financial stability of the district and personnel stability. It's really difficult to see a student developing trust with a counselor over a year, and then the counselor has to be let go and receive a pink slip. And it's also really difficult to see a teacher receiving pink slip multiple years in a row. I think it's really difficult to ask of a teacher to give your all to the district when your job is not even stable. So I think that is the most pressing issue. And as a school board, I think we possibly could have communicated the whys a little better, why we come to this situation, why Measure E did not pass in March, why the sunset clause was removed. If we explain a little bit more of the why and help Measure E pass, it will help bring stability. And I also believe that all the parents, they are very willing to give. They are giving in donation, in their time, coaching, and they're very generous. Our community is unique in that way. They're very generous, but they need to know why, right? Why is my son's favorite teacher's cut? So if we can better explain, I believe we can gain their support back and build the trust back in the community and make it better and bring stability.
Thank you. Next go to the Win Mordecai.
I think that the major problems that our district is facing can be broken down into both short-term and long-term problems. In the short term, we're primarily dealing with the return to school for our students from the pandemic, and then with the funding that is on the line from Measure E. Measure E, I am hopeful, will pass. It only lost by about 3.5% in the March vote, and with the removal of the sunset clause and the incredible job that we've done of promoting it throughout the city, I think that we have a very good chance of overcoming that challenge. And I know that everybody here is doing their part to make sure that that happens. As far as students coming back from the pandemic are concerned, I think that Ms. Flanagan's idea of having tutoring for high school students provide for lower school students is an excellent one. And in fact, As a graduate of the high school, I know that you actually are required to have 40 hours of community service that you provide for the people around you. And it's a great way for our high school students to meet a graduation requirement that was already extant in order to help their community. Big long-term problem, of course, is funding. Even since I graduated, which was only in 2016, the number of students attending San Marino Unified has dropped by almost 10%, about 300 students. And because of the way that ADA funding works, we simply are not going to be able to be excellent as a community if we're not able to find a solution to that problem.
Thank you. Next, go to Mr. Jindo Zhu.
Mr. Zhu, please go ahead and unmute.
The question is, what are the current challenges facing education school board?
Mr. Zhu, your
Please unmute yourself.
Your audio is on mute. Go ahead and then press.
Oh,
the-
okay.
There we
I'm
go.
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you now.
Okay, thank you. So there are two issues I learned here, and it's really pressing. One is to bring the students back in school in a way that we are expecting before the pandemic, okay? And secondly, is the funding I learned. So if we have to really pressing forward and to resolve the funding crisis, sounds like, to make a stable environment for teacher and students in the school, and this will be very pressing issues to allow us not only short-term, but long-term as well.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
Lastly, a question go to Mr. Michael Kiraki.
Thank you. The largest challenge that I see our district faces is finances. And that's primarily due to the local control funding formula and our declining enrollment. Over the last 10 years, I believe we've had a declining enrollment of approximately 500 students. If each student is bringing in approximately $10,000, you're looking at about $5 million in lost income. And that really binds our hands with regard to being able to provide programs and opportunities. Now, the way that we can try to resolve that is with Measure E. Measure E is responsible for 33 full-time equivalent positions, which brings in about $4.1 million of a $43 million budget. And although the school's foundation, of which I'm a trustee, and the PTAs have done a tremendous job in providing funding or trying to fill the gap, of which we've got about 25 positions filled at this time, it's still a one-time fix. We need long-term solutions for our funding and be able to fill not only teacher positions, but also programs throughout the district.
Thank you, Mr. Kalaki. Next, Mrs. Chung.
Thank you. My first question is going to Mr. Mordecai. And the question is, when working in a team, what role do you play? What process and goals do you seek for making decisions? If you can, give 1 to 2 specific examples.
Well, I have to give a bit of an ambiguous answer because the role that I have on the team depends entirely on what the team needs. But I can give an unambiguous answer because I can explain exactly what value I'd bring to the team of school board. I'm very unique among my fellow candidates here in that I'm the only one who graduated from San Marino Unified School District, and in that I graduated only 5 years ago. I have a very intimate understanding that I think is unparalleled of the culture of San Marino schools, and I also know the staff extraordinarily well because I was their student. And so last hearing for the board candidates that applied for the Barbary seat, the number one sentiment that I heard echoed among the candidates was that the board must prioritize communication with our teachers. And in me, you have someone who knows our teachers potentially better than anyone else in this room because I've spent hundreds of hours with those that I had. Additionally, I understand in a unique way the degree to which San Marino prepares its students to attend elite universities. I only graduated from Duke University last year, and I have it fresh in my head the degree to which San Marino and its excellent curriculum prepared me to take on a university of that status. And so for those reasons, I think that I can be an invaluable team member on the school board.
Thank you, Mr. Mordecai. Mr. Jingdong Zhu?
Yeah. Can you hear me, right?
Yes.
So I think working in the team environment is very important, apparently, right? So in each of us doing things, we all need a team to accomplish larger goals. So for me, I'm not sure I can give you a specific example which is fitting this scenario, and because it's related to my career and job. I rather give you some idea as how I can contribute to the teamwork. So being born in China and raised in China, educated in West, so I'm bilingual. So I can speak both languages fluently. And therefore I could possibly bridge the communication between the parents and families in our community to provide a voice and provide a suggestion and recommendations to the team. And this, I hope I can do something to contribute to the teamwork. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clackey?
I truly and deeply care for the children in this community. And that passion may at times have seemed a bit much, but that was my role as a parent and a community member. I fully understand there is a difference when somebody is a board member. As a board member, you must be making decisions which are founded upon consensus of the entire board. In my years of experience as an attorney, I have ardently advocated against certain positions. And then the very next day, I've worked together in a mediation to try to constructively and creatively resolve conflict for the greater good, for the benefit of the client. I see the same situation here. As a board member, you need to listen to all the other board members. You need to have a mutual respect, and you need to try to incorporate the ideas of each board member in so that there is a unified voice. Now, we will not always agree, but we have to be willing to agree to disagree. And that is what will allow for a unified decision. And once the decision is made, then that is the voice of the board. And everybody on the board accepts that and moves forward for the betterment of the institution. It's very important that every board member follow the law and be beyond reproach, because that provides credibility to the institution as well.
Thank you. Cynthia Airy? Do you want me to?
Okay. Well, I just have to say I graduated from Stoneman Huntington Middle School on San Marino High, long time ago. I have worked on many teams in this district, and I was kind of thinking back through my past, and I worked with, when I was PTA President Valentine, I worked with 3 principals. I worked with Dr. Schreiber, Billie Jean Knight, and Colleen Shields. And then I moved on to the middle school, and I worked with Mr. Murray and Jason Kirkenbach. And then I was San Marino High School. I was the PTSA president for 2 years in a row. And I worked with Mr. Derek, Mary Johnson, Isaac Gates, and then this last year, Jason Kirkenbach. And I think for me, one of the most profound as far as working with groups and being a team member was I was president of NCL last year. And we had to come together as a team and decide to shut down all of our philanthropies because of the pandemic. And it was a very difficult decision, and we had a lot of philanthropies that depended on us monetarily. But we came together as an executive board and we listened and we figured it out. And we were still at the end of the year able to give scholarships and things like that. But we really had to think outside the box and what we could do to continue with our hours and our volunteering in the communities that needed us and supported us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mrs. Flanagan?
When working on a team, I play the role of a team player, listening to the others, which is probably the most important skill you must have and use. I would evaluate the problem with my team members, and together we would make and agree on our goals and solutions. If I were a member of the board, I have some ideas that I would put forth for the board to think about. I think that communication is one of our main issues, and I think perhaps there could be one member on the board that could be the liaison to the schools and the teachers, the great communicator. The teachers knew, as I mentioned before, after the parents knew when the school was going to start, and that's a problem. I also think we have many experts in our community, legal, financial minds that could help the board whenever we have an issue. I think we should use our community. I think that in the schools that we could have community members for the summer offer our high school students internships. I think we should encourage community experts to give speeches in the schools and talk to groups of students at the high school that are interested in learning more about their field of expertise. And I have more ideas too.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Kasi?
So the role I play in a team setting, most often I start with learning my boundaries. What are the boundaries? What are the given circumstances? What are the financial restrictions? What's my budget? What I can do, what I cannot do. And then once learning my boundary, I'm always the one that's creative, trying to find a way to maximize impact within the given boundaries. And I always want to explore possibilities, right? Is there other ways to look at this? Did I hear enough of from the trusted counselor or committee member? What are the additional options that can be considered? Once everything is considered and we decided what's the best way to proceed, then we need to keep it as a cohesive message as a team. I think that is very important to set personal feelings aside, especially when something is not what you agree on, but as a team to advocate for San Marino School District, it has to be one voice. And the example, the most recent example could be the HMS promotion that I work with. We decided to come up with a selfie with portrait printout that was widely successful, and I have to stop.
Thank you.
All right. So at this point, we're almost we're at the halfway point, and like the seventh inning stretch, we might want you to stand up and sing a song or do something like that. Everyone's smiling at me because you're thinking I'm joking, right? But I'm not. I need you to produce a song. Okay, Cynthia's up. All right. And there is a trap door under you, Mr. Kalaki. So if you go over your time again, it will open. All right. So my last question to you is, and bring us home with this, if you had unlimited money, so we've talked a lot about money, if you had unlimited money for San Marino schools, what would you spend it on and why? How would that expenditure improve student academics and social emotional achievement? Let's start with Ms. Susan Flanagan.
Well, if I had unlimited money, that would just be the best thing in the world. I have a lot of places I would like to put the money. Number one, our students receive their education mainly from their parents and their teachers. We're in control of the teachers. So I would give a lot of money to raise the teachers' salaries, because we need to attract the best and the brightest teachers we can find. Because if we have the best and the brightest teachers, hopefully then our children will be getting the best education possible and will have the best opportunity to succeed in life. And as well as that, our schools will be at the top of all the schools in the area, and people will flock here. Rather than losing students, we will have too many students. We won't know what to do with them, and we will give them the best education possible. So that's where I would put most of my funds.
Thank you.
Not to say there aren't a lot of other places to put them as well. But.
All right, thank you. Ms. Louis Cassie.
I believe in people. I think investment in people never goes wrong. So if I have unlimited budget, I would like to first and foremost bring stability to our staff and teacher. They are very important in anchoring our education. If we can hire more TAs, if we can make the teacher's life better, that's all the better. But can we also consider using the money to bring better students? Because we are at low enrollment right now. Can we offer scholarship? Can we attract students with some other sports program or education specialties of sort, right? Can we attract students? Can we attract teachers? Those are very important. And if I have more money, I would like to address our facility issues. We have a facility bond that has been difficult to pass in the past few years. Can I fix up our schools? Can I bring in a better air conditioner to make learning more pleasant for the kids? Can we upgrade our performing arts building, swimming pool, and all the facilities that needs to be addressed? I think all of that go hand in hand and cannot be neglected. So in the best scenario of having unlimited fund, I would like to address it to invest in people first and then facility second.
Thank you. Mr. Jingdong Zhu, please.
Hi, I think if I would have unlimited money to support the school, I will look into two ways, short-term and long-term. The short term, just like every other candidates mentioned, that we will support and spend money on the staffs and also the facilities. And I'm usually a big proponent for the facility improvement in order to have students have a well-rounded development in their experience in the high school, not only academic, but also sports, arts, and musics. Okay, so performing arts center, for example, to improve, and the gym also to improve, and the sports arena. So on the other hand, I'm looking to the long term as well. So spend some money on the investment, not necessarily directly used in the school at present. However, this money will be invested for the longer term to spend to the school in the future. Okay, so we're investing the appropriate funding to manage that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Michael Kalaki, please.
First, I would start by listening. I would listen to our community and the stakeholders across our community. This is not my district. This is the district of all of us. And everybody would have interests and everybody would have desires and goals, and they should all be considered. I then would start to focus on building a consensus with the board, a plan that works with the input of every board member. My personal focus would include things like robust counseling programs at all levels in our schools. This is a valuable resource in preparing our students and helping them get into the best colleges, universities, and post-secondary education programs that they choose to pursue. I would also focus on more diverse and expanded foreign language programs, because these programs give our students the opportunity to meaningfully engage and appreciate other cultures and diversity. And this will help them be good global citizens. I would also work to increase and provide more diverse seminar courses and CTE pathways, such as medicine, engineering, VAPA, social sciences, and others. These programs and opportunities maximize the opportunity for real-world training and experience, and that would be the best option for our children.
All right, you forgot about the trap door underneath, Mr. Kalaki? Okay, thank you. Ms. Cynthia Airy.
If I had all the money in the world, of course I would bring back all of our teachers and maybe try to hire some additional teachers. And maybe their aides, or if they need support. I think counselors at all the schools, I would hire more, even at the elementary and middle school, but first at the high school for sure. Okay, we would need to redo both the small and large gym, and we would need to redo the auditorium at the high school, because can I just say that it's the same as it was when I was there. It has not changed, the auditorium or the gym. And I know for the large gym specifically, the air conditioning there is none. And basketball is very difficult up there, and doing grad night is very difficult up there. So I would spend money there. I would redo both of the auditoriums, specifically the large one, and do more of what they've done in Arcadia with their auditorium, and they have different groups that come in and rent it out from them. I would also maybe update the food service at Valentine and Huntington Middle School. I think that they need a little bit of love, and
10 seconds.
So that's what I would do, but I would think obviously the teachers and the large and small gym and the auditorium at the high school for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wynn Mordecai, please.
Well, if I had all the money in the world, I would increase the student-faculty ratio to be 1-to-1, such that every student would have a private tutor, but that's, of course, unrealistic even in the grounds of the question. So the real question at hand here is, what's the order of operations as to what you improve with the schools? And I think that increasing the number of teachers is probably the way to go. One of the big challenges that our school has faced as enrollment has declined and as our budget has continued to dwindle is that it requires different teachers to wear more hats throughout the day, which damages the economy of scale that our schools benefited from in the past. In further detail, I can provide a specific example. When I was in high school, this would have been right after LCFF started to really take a hit, or our funding started to take a hit as a result of LCFF. I had a teacher who was an AP biology teacher, a normal biology teacher, a chemistry teacher, and the varsity golf coach all at the same time. And it was very hard for that teacher, as hard as he tried to do his best by everyone, to wear all those different hats successfully. And so I think the first thing that you need to do is ensure that the teachers don't have an overwhelming amount of work on their plate every day, and that they're able to focus on a job that they enjoy and that gives the students their complete focus and attention. So I would focus on teacher hiring.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Mr. Chang.
Next question go to Mr. Michael Kiraki. The question is, what is your vision for education in the community?
My vision for education is founded on a deep appreciation for every child, regardless of their individual circumstance, deserves to have his or her maximum potential identified and achieved. One successful way to achieve this is to present as many diverse new opportunities as possible to the student throughout their education, and to encourage the student to explore, to step outside their comfort zone. At some point in every child's life, they have been introduced for the first time to their favorite activity, game, subject, skill set, and eventually what they choose as their career. Diversity of exposure presents opportunity, and it presents an environment which is best suited for identifying and achieving every child's maximum potential. As a board member, I would like to work with the board to seek out opportunities to prepare our students with the necessary skills for success in the real world, for college, and for whatever choice their skill set is best suited for. The purpose of public schools is to reach every child regardless of their circumstance in life, identify and achieve their maximum potential, and I would appreciate the opportunity to incorporate that principle as part of the vision and the unified voice and goals that this board sets forth for our district.
Thank you. Next, go to the Mr. Jin Dong Zhu.
Yeah, so my vision to the school for San Marino is to ensure our school develop a well-rounded programs to teach and cultivate and raise our children. Now, what I mean by well-rounded is to provide enough opportunity and sufficient opportunities for all kinds of angles, not only academic, but also arts and sports, and as well as the social awareness. So that each student in our community can reach their highest potential and explore the possibilities that lies ahead of them to discover their potentials as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, go to the Mrs. Cynthia Ari.
So kind of looking at this question, I think that the education in San Marino is the bedrock of our community. It is the framework, and so much of our community, I think, needs to I think they understand, but I think there's an older demographic that maybe doesn't quite understand. And I think we need to kind of get the community and the schools, and I thought of maybe doing some event where it could be a community-wide event. There's so many, my mother still lives in the town, and so many of her friends, and I don't think that they quite understand, even though I've tried to explain the funding and the issues that go on. And they know how special our schools are. All three of my mom's kids graduated from there, and they understand that. And my kids have graduated from San Marino High, so we understand that. I just think that there may be, we have so much to offer and so much good in San Marino, and the schools are second to none. And they are, that's why the housing market in San Marino is crazy. Everybody wants to be here, and I just think that we have to continue to tout all the goodness that we do and all the great schools. And, if Measure E passes, then, we're gold. And if it doesn't, then we'll have to make adjustments, but we're still going to be the best school in, I don't want to say California, but in the, San Gabriel Valley for sure. I mean, we're awesome.
Thank you. Next, go to, this is Susan Flanagan.
My vision for education in this community is teaching all of our students the basics, giving them an excellent foundation on which they can build according to their strengths and interests. We must challenge, motivate, and inspire each child to reach their full potential. All students deserve a well-balanced, well-rounded education with an excellent curriculum, including sports, the arts, and special interests. San Marino is fortunate to have skillful and dedicated teachers, gifted students who desire to learn, and the supportive parents, the administration, and the community. I believe it is important for our district, which has always been known for its excellent schools, to always strive to be the best without lowering its standards. My parents and I moved to San Marino for its excellent schools and the community, its sense of community, like I think most of our residents have. While at Carver, I believe the San Marino School District had been #1 very close to 15 years in a row. It is our job and our responsibility to make San Marino schools the best again, thus preparing our students to be the most successful they can be.
Thank you. Next, go to Mr. Win Mordecai.
I think that Ms. Airy touched on one of the fundamental truths that's so excellent about our community, which is that even though on paper we are very diverse in terms of the different regions of the country and world that we hail from, we all are united by the immense importance that we put on education. Every family in this community moved here largely for that reason. And so it hurts me to see continually students and parents who want so desperately for our schools to do good on that promise to them that they're going to, take these incredibly motivated students who have been taught to value education and see that promise be put in jeopardy time and time again by the lack of funding and damage that state law has done to our schools. And so the vision that I have for our schools is to have students and parents finally be comfortable in the status quo and know that the opportunities that they'll have in our schools are not going to be in jeopardy because of parcel taxes being pulled out from under the rug on their funding.
10 seconds.
And so my vision is one of comfort in the status quo that I feel like students here haven't felt for a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, go to Mrs. Louis Kaisi.
I think my vision would work great if combined with the unlimited funding in the previous question. But of course, that's not the case. But I believe each students learn differently and it's difficult to attend to all, but we need to at least acknowledge and provide as many options as possibly can be executed. And then I believe we need to look at them not just academically, but also developing them as a world citizen with the personality to fit and excel in the world outside of San Marino. Teaching them how to be inclusive, how to have worldview is very important. My husband and my sister-in-law, they all graduated from San Marino High School. So I understand the history and the excellence of this unique community. And I want to see if we can bring that back. We are known to be the #1, but we are #1 by many struggles. So how do we bring stability and make improvements and continue to be #1? Can we find some creative ways to continue to be #1 and let other districts see what we can do? So that's my vision.
Thank you.
Next, Mrs. Chung, please.
Thank you, Mr. President Ryan. My question is going to go first to Cynthia Airy, and I'll read it. Provide a specific example of how you approached a problem using innovative and out-of-the-box thinking. Explain your thought process, the outcome, and lessons learned from it.
Well, right up my alley. The first thing that came to mind was grad night. And I was the creative chair of grad night in 2017. And for this year, I was the chair of grad night for 2021. And when I say we had to think out of the box, I mean we had to really think outside the box. And once we got approval, we had about 8 weeks to put it together. And this is one of the reasons why I decided to run or put my name in the hat for school board. The community support and involvement with grad night was unbelievable. It was amazing. From the police chief to Aldo at the at the city hall, to the fire chief, to our principal, to the hundreds of volunteers. Everybody stepped up to help us have a grad night that had never happened this way before. I mean, for 66 years, we pretty much had it in the gym. I had it in the gym when I was in high school. We had to think outside the box. And I think it was a spectacular event. The students had the best time. The thank yous were overwhelming from the senior parents that we received. And we could not have done it with all of the volunteers. And we just basically put out an SOS that we needed help. And they all came, and we were able to create it outside on the basketball court. And we had food trucks rather than serving. And we just did all sorts of different things. And I think it was a huge success. And I think the students in the class of 2021 had, some of them said, the best time of their entire year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Uri. I'm in the middle of that myself next week, so I can appreciate it.
Yay.
Mr. Jingdong Zhu.
Hi. So thinking out of box, let me tell you, my first step landed in this country was only $1,000. And today, I'm worth over multi-million dollars. And I raised 4 children in my family, and my wife is a homemaker, an entrepreneur. So by saying that, I'm saying is that based on my own professional work, I can never achieve the status as I have today. And by thinking outside the box is throughout my journey of life in this country, developing a sense of urgency of not only present funding, but also the future funding. So as I heard over and over again from the beginning, the importance of school funding is extremely important. And yeah, so that's what I can think outside box for. And I have idea in the future I can share with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mordecai?
At least the pertinent memory that I recall of a time when I thought out of the box to solve a problem in education was actually during my time at college. And this was my senior year, so only a year ago, during which the school administration constantly sent emails to the senior class asking for the seniors to make donations to the school. This is after we're paying around $70,000 a year, every year, year in, year out, right, to attend. And I come from a public school here that, of course, has, made, turned almost nothing into one of the greatest school districts in our state. And I was so sort of disgusted by the university that I wrote a satire piece for the newspaper about encouraging students to pledge their children's earnings to Duke University as a way to further up the challenge of donating. And through that, I learned a couple of things. First, that even just taking something that seems like an inconsequential step towards justice and the truth can amass you a great deal of camaraderie with those who share your circumstances, and also how much I care about my education here, and the degree to which I don't take it for granted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Flanagan?
Teachers have to think out of the box every single day. Students are all different. They all learn differently. They all learn in different time frames. One example, I was handed Common Core one day, a math book that I read cover to cover, and I found out just one thing that I'll mention, that they spent 1 to 3 pages on teaching money. And they used the same size circle to talk about pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and half dollars. So students looking at that would think that all the coins looked the same, there wasn't anything on the coin, and they were all the same size. So, and like any subject or any material a teacher is given, it is never enough. And so you have to think out of the box and do something different. So of course I brought in fake coins and I had them buy things from the store and they would learn how to give money and get change and all that. But one thing that I did that I've never heard anyone do before was have them go home and research the people on each coin and all the symbols on every coin. And they would come to school and we'd talk about it and discuss it. And I learned that I can teach them in.
Thank you, Ms. Flanagan. Mr. Kalaki?
You know, this is a great question and perhaps a really good one to end with tonight. When I saw it, I thought back as an attorney that owns my own law firm. I'm responsible for interviewing prospective employment applicants. And so a few years ago, I had a prospective applicant that come in. She had applied for a certain position. And I could tell that she didn't have quite the right skills, the right set for that position. But I did see in her, in my conversations with her, that she had certain skills that were very valuable. And they would be valuable actually for a position that not only was I not hiring for, but that my firm didn't even have at that time. So what I did was I recognized that I was being presented with an opportunity to take in resources and use the resources that were presented to me to try to achieve the ultimate goal of the firm.
30 seconds.
And in doing that, I offered her a different position that I crafted so that it would be best for her and it would be best for the firm. It did end up being a great endeavor, and it helped with the success of our firm overall. So the goal is to try to use your limited resources and achieve the maximum goals of the institution.
Thank you. Ms. Kasi?
A perfect example for thinking outside the box would be the pop-up events that I executed and planned. I first, again, start with checking the boundaries, what I can do, what I cannot do, and checking the messages to see if I'm conveying the right message. I work with Foundation's trustee, school board member, police chief, just to make sure they're all in line. And then I set up a table in front of the San Marino Music Center. And that was an example of aligning resources because I combined that event on Spring Stroll at the Mission District, and it was widely successful. And my third event with the pop-up, I end up drawing Measure E messages on people's car. That was never done before. And I remember the first reaction from NAM is, do you think people would do that to their car? And yes, we end up having 70 people, 70 cars on that day being drawn. And the elements in there includes matching fun that has never been done before, and the mobile Measure E message that's never been done before. And the thought process is, how can we do something for the foundation to fundraise without any cost? And I think at that time, nothing is too much, nothing is duplicate. So I just went ahead and do it, but I do it with great community support and knowing what the resources are.
All right. So I just want to say thank you for all of the candidates. You've put your heart and soul into this process, and you've helped to kind of illuminate some of our questions. You have helped us to get to know you a little better and to really spend some time together. It's probably about an hour, right? An hour and a half. And so with that, I'm going to give I'm stalling here, so I'm going to give my board a little bit of time. Do we move back into our? positions? Okay. All right. So we're going to take like a 2-minute break as you see us come around again. So we're facing the audience. Oh, there's a public comment. All right.
Yeah.
So Mr. Choi, have you given the requisite time?
What I would suggest is we move you back on that side of the table for public comments.
Okay. Thank you so much.
If it's okay, President Ryan, I can go ahead and take requests for public comments as we move. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Choi.
Okay, we are now pausing the meeting for 1 minute to take requests for public comments. If you would like to make public comments via Zoom, please press the raise hand icon. Or if you are calling into Zoom, please dial *9. And if you are joining us in person, please submit a public comment card. We have 30 seconds remaining. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card.
Thank you. Is there any requests from the?
We have one so far with 3 seconds remaining. So, okay, President Ryan, we have one request via Zoom, and I see that we have one public comment card.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'd like to call on Miss Lisa Link, who is from 880 Winthrop Road. Mrs. Link.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Good evening, President Ryan and board members, Mr. Chang, Mrs. Tran, and Mrs. Jack, as well as Superintendent Wilson and Cabinet. First, thank you to the 6 applicants here tonight. You all bring different and important skills, experiences, and viewpoints, and I really appreciate your willingness to serve the San Marino community. So when the news hit that Corey Barbary resigned his school board seat in order to move to Tennessee, and again, when Julie Chan Lin suddenly quit her board seat, many people suggested that it would only be fair to appoint the runner-up, seeing as the last election expressed the will of the San Marino community and that it was so recent. Given the unique circumstances here, I think that this is a perfectly reasonable approach for the board to take, and it is one that this board has the discretion to adopt. I'm not used to being on this side, sorry. So Mike Kalaki was the runner-up in not 1, but 2 school board elections. The first election was in 2018. There were 7 candidates. He was runner-up to 3rd place, Corey Barbary. He lost by a difference of 97 votes. In the second election in 2020, there were 5 candidates, and he was runner-up to 2nd place, Julie Chan Lin, whose seat is being filled tonight, by a difference of 92 votes. Now that both Corey and Julie have vacated their seats before the end of their terms, it makes perfect sense to put the next highest vote receiver in both elections, Mike Kalaki, in the vacant seat. It also makes sense to appoint Mike Kalaki because he is the only applicant before you who has already been vetted and approved by the San Marino electorate. During the last school board election, just 7 months ago, Mike received a yes vote from 2,516 individual San Marino citizens, which is a very strong endorsement for the skills and qualifications that Mike brings to the table. Even though tonight's decision is up to this board and not the San Marino community, there is no question that this community has already expressed significant support for Mike in this position. Now, I think everyone did a wonderful job here tonight and you're all very qualified, but I submit to this board that selecting Mike Kalaki makes sense because the San Marino community has already supported his candidacy as the runner-up in 2 separate elections, that is a fair and objective way to appoint a provisional candidate. but even beyond fair process, as you saw in his application and as we heard tonight. Mike has the qualifications. He has demonstrated commitment over and over to serving the community and acting in the best interests of this school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Link.
Okay, President Ryan, we have Mr. Sean Cho requesting to speak. Sean, your line is now open.
Hello, Sean.
Hi, this is Sean, also known as Mr. Louis Kasi. And I listened to the process today, and I got a couple points. I'm actually standing in front of my house, and I object to this veiled threat of people's residence. I want to turn on the camera, but I don't know how. But I'm right here, and I can show you all these signs that, you know, we supported Carver School, we supported Yes Measure on Yes, we supported you know, the school foundation, we donated, and then we support even Carver, where my kids don't attend. And I object to the process of appointing Mike Kalaki. If you wanted to appoint Mike, you should have done it in the first place. If we follow the logic that he went through 2 elections, that means he was rejected by voters in both elections. So, I mean, I think Mike is good person for stepping up for the running the school board, but I don't think you just appoint based on the past election result where he failed to win the election. So these are my points. I'm a little biased. I support Louis Kasi because I'm her husband. But if you do vote for Louis, you do select Louis, you'll know how lucky you are to have her on your side. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. All right. This concludes our question session, our interview session at this time. Oh, hang on. This is a kind of an action item. Do I have a motion from the board?
Hi, Board President. I would like to make my own comment here. Personally, I feel after last year, November, so as a board member, you know, I feel kind of frustrated, you know, because we are not moving quickly and make a decision. Definitely, you know, the COVID-19, I think, is the major reason. But secondly, I feel this is not a personal attack, you know, but you know, serving as a 20-year school board member, I definitely, I know I totally respect to each of the community member. But think about the last 5 years, what happened in our community. It's okay. You know, the public and including the school parent, and you have something to good opinion, and please bring up to the school board as a reference, and please talk to the superintendent. But we are not really doing that. Just talking about the, the video issue, for take so many years, the talking about criticize, we are not transparency. We are not transparent because, we are not doing the video tape. But after COVID-19, I think we improve our technology, and also this United States, they are able with the COVID-19 preparation, and then we've been improved for technology. Finally, every day we have a Zoom meeting, and every board meeting we have a Zoom meeting. I remember the last year, I'm the one, stay at the school district with the superintendent. But when we have a Zoom meeting, and why someone said that we are not transparent, we want to go to the in-person meeting, and then they against to us. So I mean, some of community people, I feel they are very emotional. They are not take their judgment and fairly to explain what is the need for the student. I believe behind my back, all the candidates, they have a passion to serve for the community. But then we have to think about who is the team member we can play. This just like, this weekend, my son in Arizona, the people, they are not focused in the Los Angeles, the basketball game. They are focused in the Arizona because they ship to the good player, they ship to the Arizona. So then I think this teamwork. My personal expectation, I'm not speaking on behalf of other school board members, my expectation, before the turnover, I want to do more for the student. I want to do more for the teacher. I want to do more for the staff. I did for the COVID-19, I did a lot for the COVID-19 prevention. This is what, I did, but constantly I keep quiet. I'm not sure of what I did for this community, how much I raised for this community. I think as you are in this community, it's your responsibility to make this community to be the better. So I am not saying which one is not good, which one is good. I think end up the people that live in the San Marino, they have the certain standard. And as a courtesy, we encourage everyone to participate the school board election or appointment. But I still not like the first round. What I'm expect is who can team up. Yeah, because this the board member when they come in is not speak on the certain group interest. It's not just the teacher interest. Yes, we need to take care of the teacher. I am the one, serving in the health committee, benefit committee. I know this committee. I don't think the board member, they want to be in this committee. I know the people put me in this committee because of my expertise, but this committee is not, can be the high profile. when you work for this community, you cannot see the glory. But it's very important because the teacher interest is the health benefit. So that's the most important. So I just want to share everyone think about, and I know that right now in the room or in the tomorrow, a lot of the community people, they will make a comment. No matter who get elected, and then we'll have the comment. But I want to share the community. I'm the one, I say I'm the San Marino. I really live in the San Marino. This is the integrity. You don't have to tell me who you live, but you participate the election or the appointment. You need to prepare mentally. It's not the people challenging you. So it's very important. I think serve as a politician is very simple. Prepare yourself first, and then do it. That's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Mrs. Chung, at this time, are you?
I'm not actually. If anybody else would like to say anything, I'm still thinking.
Okay. If it's all right with you, Mrs. Jack, I'd like to go. Okay. So the last couple of months, I've put a lot of thought in the selection and the candidate. And primarily what I'm looking at is the cohesiveness of the team, because as board president, as a board member, what I'm looking for is somebody who is going to add to this family, this group. And the leadership takes on many different forms. Sometimes we will need board members that are able to support the decisions that the board makes. Oftentimes, we need valuable input, so you can't be afraid to speak your mind. So I'm often challenged to look for compassionate people, but with the understanding that we need to all work together. The board member that I feel I may not agree with all the time is not necessarily the candidate I wish to have or not to wish to have, because that candidate, whether or not he or she agrees with me, has a perspective and may allow the board to move forward in the decisions that we look at and problem solve. So with that in mind, I'm looking at somebody who has invested a number of years in our community as a leader, and someone who is invested with children in the community, and that has the energy and passion to continue the work that we will start. This is a one-year term, and at the next session, there will be other candidates who may want to throw in their name in the hat. But I feel very strongly at this time that the person I would like to have the board consider is Mr. Kalaki. So my motion is to recommend Mr. Kalaki as our 5th board member.
Okay, I second.
Would you, is there a discussion, or would you like me to take roll call?
I will say something before
Okay.
roll call.
Go ahead, Mrs. Chung.
I, like President Ryan, have struggled tremendously with this decision. Not for some of the obvious reasons, but because one might think that the obvious reasons would be that Mr. Kalaki and I, since his name is put forth now, I will
sort of meet that head on. And some might think that the reason why I would struggle with that would be because we had been opponents in prior campaigns. I actually find myself in agreement with Mr. Kalaki on a great many issues. I think that with all of the candidates who ran in well, maybe not 2018, but 2020, I think all of us shared a deep commitment to wanting to do what was best for the schools. And 2018 was the same as well. Things just kind of went off the rails on that one. But I do think that everybody shared a common commitment to really wanting to do what was best for the kids, including Mr. Kalaki. And I shared many of the same ideas with him. My concerns with Mr. Kalaki don't have to do with his vision or his intentions for the schools. I do have concerns, however, over what many in the community have expressed to me to be concerns over his interactions in the roles in which he has served. And though I do believe he would be able to set that aside for the sake of the board, I'm not sure that I've seen demonstration of that. My concerns are that he has shown himself to be somewhat adversarial, where I feel in the future what we really need is less adversarial relations and more collaborative ones. I think the last year has seen enough trauma and adversarial relations, and I am concerned and ask that if Mr. Kalaki does fill this seat, that he really take on that challenge to set aside what has been past practice and be more collaborative. I think that Ms. Kasi would make an excellent board member, though what she lacks in experience in terms of official titles and leadership roles, she has demonstrated a great deal of passion and innovation in her ideas. I think as we look forward.
Mrs. Strong, we have a motion on the floor, so we're going on that one first, and then if you want to move to Ms. Cassie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that
she's not.
Okay,
up.
I'm not, okay.
So there was a motion on the floor, which I made, and Mr. Chang seconded. And so you're doing a discussion, but you can't go to you shouldn't discuss the next candidate.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Okay.
So I will stop there then.
Okay. So at this time, I would like to call the vote.
Before you call for vote, I have a, you know what, since I got a microphone, I occupy a microphone to speak a lot. I think that this is the only opportunity. You know, the 20 years, I'm not talking too much. This is my style. So when I second for the Mike Hiraki, it doesn't mean that I 200% agree with him. So I said I second him, but I also want give him the advice because I almost live in San Marino 30 years. So if you see each school board member, you know they serve for the 2 terms, and then everyone is very low key. We are not using the school board as a vehicle to show off. You know, we are different from the city council. You know, I always say you serve for school board, you don't have a glory. Yeah, and the city, you know, the other area, they serve for school board is like a stepstone, and then go to the city council, and then go to the Congress member. Yeah, we are not, because we know this is our hometown. Yeah, even each of us from the Korea, from the Taiwan, or from Indonesia, or everyone, they come to the San Marino. This is our hometown. So we have a second generation. We have a third generation. So we have to make sure this hometown is forever. Forever. We dedicate for this hometown. So we are not So for some the reason, you know, we want to make money or we want to get famous. No. So this is what I give the advice with the second.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. If there is no further discussion, may I have a roll call vote? Mrs. Chong?
Nay.
Mr. Chang? Mrs. Jack? Mrs. Ryan? Aye. Motion pass. Motion passes.
Ryan, may I make
Mrs.
one
Ryan,
comment?
if we could have Mr. Kalaki join me at the front of the
Can
stage.
I make one
Mrs. Jack
comment?
would
Oh,
like
I'm
to
sorry.
make a comment.
Mrs. Jack.
I would like to thank each and every individual, whether it was in the first round or the second round, that committed to coming out in public and doing as much research as they could and taking the time to do so in this kind of venue, which I know is very, very difficult. I thought each and every one was an excellent candidate. I would like to encourage each and every person here on this podium to understand that in a year and a half, this seat, the one that I'm occupying for Mr. Barbary, will be open. So I encourage each and every one of you, if you are still interested and invested in the community, to take on a leadership role, to please campaign, and to please seek office here in our district. So I would like to thank all of you and encourage you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jack. And I also want to echo the same thing that by next year in November, there will be 3 available seats. Mrs. Jack's seat, Mr. Chang's seat, and myself is up for re-election. And also the seat that's filled by Mrs. Chan Lin, now Mr. Kalaki, will be up again because he will have to run again for his remaining 2 years. So I want the public to understand that there will be 4 seats available for next year, within the next year. Dr. Wilson?
Thank you, Mrs. Ryan. And I echo the comments. Boy, I was just so impressed with each candidate. Such a young man here. This is awesome to see our future. And thank you for the investment that you made in our school district. Mr. Kalaki, would you join me up here on the center stage?
Are you doing the swearing in?
This is the swearing in.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's great right there. Well done. Congratulations. Okay, Mr. Kalaki, would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Michael Kalaki, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will, and that this is a tough one, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Meet you, board here.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate all your help. Well done. All right. Well
Nice
done.
to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Student
The other thing we can do is move it back. The light is actually really good here. Okay, technically I'm going to be the superintendent with this 5 for about 7 more days. So I won't. Stephen, why don't you come on? Session for after the open session.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so do we do it?
What's that? Yeah, we just take a.
Does she need to close? Does she have to close this?
All right, with that and the swearing in of the provisional appointee. Public session, public comment. Okay. All right, at this time, I will adjourn the meeting.